Forum public input. Jim Schneeweiss, you're first. While you're coming up to the podium, I'd like to read a brief statement. The ISD 318 school board shall provide a specific period of time where persons may address the school board on any topic subject to limitations of policy 206. All individual comments shall be less than 5 minutes. Any group of 5 or more persons must appoint one person to present the group's views to the board. Depending on the number of persons present, the school board chair reserves the right to set further time limits to allow participation within the allocated time. The board shall not allow negative comments in public session about individual employees or students. Specific factual information or recitation of existing policy may be furnished in response to inquiries, but the board shall not deliberate or decide regarding any issue that is not included on the agenda posted with the notice of the meeting. If there are more requests than time available, priority will be given to persons that reside within the Grand Rapids Big Fork School District. Jim, go ahead.
Okay, my name is Jim Schneeweiss. I'm a substitute teacher. I've been subbing for either 20 or 21 years. I kind of lost track. I sub a lot. I sub mostly at the middle school and high school, a little here at ALC, and I also sub at Quest. I'm here today to talk to you about what I think is an incredibly terrible problem, and that is cell phones in the schools. I can't believe what's going on out at the high school, and it's starting at the middle school, and it's getting worse all the time. I like to talk to teachers before I take their job. Let them know I'm there. Maybe they've got something special they're going to do that I could help out with. And I always ask them, what is your cell phone policy? And this is the kind of responses I get. Well, if you want to try to tackle that problem, really? That's the tail wagging the dog. How about this one? These are core classes. A teacher said to me, well, if you think cell phones are a distraction, these were juniors and seniors, just tell the kids to put them away. There's 2 things wrong with that. They are a distraction. There's absolutely no question about it. And secondly, they're not going to put them away. I spent 6 days over there for Senor Pierce last week before, and just battled these kids, and they were freshmen. Because you just can't get them to put the cell phones away. Over and over and over. I was out there today, same thing. Cell phone safe. If you don't think so, go out and look. Walk around and look at the classes and see how many kids got those cell phones in their face. Because that's what I see all the time. Another teacher told me, well, we're trying to teach students proper cell phone etiquette. Another teacher told me it's a core class. I said, what is your cell phone policy? She says, well, they've got to pass this class to graduate. So what they're doing with their cell phones is digging their own grave. Well, that took care of that. So I subbed for her and watched kids dig their own grave. Apparently the policy is that teachers make up their own policy. Each teacher has a different policy. And the teachers that don't allow them, like Shelley Lindstrom and Senor Pierce, and trying to think of the other one. Lindstrom. But anyway, they are just, I talked to one of those teachers today, and she said she fights that battle every single day with cell phones. And another thing is, they're used for cheating. If you think not, I'll be glad to take you aside and tell you some experiences I've had with cheating. When I was in Spanish, she had right across the board, absolutely no cell phones. It was in Spanish. Right over your head. Shelley Lindstrom on her subplans, it says cell phones have no place in this room. but they're just coming from a room where they got the cell phone planted in their face. It's wrong. I don't know if you saw an article in the Minneapolis Tribune yesterday, a feature article. Did you see that?
Yep.
Yeah. It's kind of alarming and shocking. What's he saying here about how it's slipping away? The middle school. Dan has tried hard over there, but for some reason now he has decided to let kids carry phones. That's like giving a kid a chocolate bar, tell him carry it around all day and don't take a bite. I was last time I was there was Friday, 7th grade, won't mention the teacher. One phone went off. And one kid was using a cell phone, she said, for a bookmark. It's out of control. I was out there today. I just watched these kids all playing and playing and playing. You tell them to put it away. They put it away for 5 minutes and it's right back out. I have a friend down the street who's got a grandson in the cities. And he called me up one day, a year and a half ago, when he saw his son's name in the paper, in the Minneapolis paper. It was National Merit Scholar. He said, you know, the school across the lake, he says, hadn't had a National Merit Scholar. Well, he said they didn't have anyone listed, because all the schools in Minnesota were listed. And I said, I got news for you. They haven't had one since about 2006. Cell phones have to be part of that. I can't believe there's kids that are sitting in class and they're playing with their phones. And they're not learning. Last thing I want to tell you, about a week and a half ago, I was walking down the hall with another son. This guy is a retired teacher, been in the district, been in a position of teaching for about 35 years. Terrific guy, loves the kids. He comes out there, he's just an amazing resource for our school. And we're walking down the hall, and all of a sudden he says, you know what's ruining this school? I says, what? He says, yes! Guess what it was? That's all I have to say. Please do something about it, instead of just talking about it. Because it's out of control, folks. It's really out of control. Go out and look. Walk around and look. See what you see. Spend a little time with me tomorrow. You'll be really shocked. Thank you very much.
Nancy Slater.
I chose to bring my computer so I could zoom in. My eyes are not as young as they used to be. Good evening, members of the school board and superintendent girls. My name is Nancy Schlater. I've been an ESP and now a kindergarten teacher since 2007. I subbed a long time before that as well. I'm here to speak on behalf of my kindergarten team at East Rapids. We understand you have concerns about closing school early because of how it would impact our families. It is our hope that you also consider how the situation is impacting staff and what we are expected to accomplish within the time that we are being given. As you know, staff who are moving are being asked to put together their own boxes, pack the classrooms, and load them onto pallets. The grade level move document states that packing should not happen during instructional time. We will definitely take full advantage of any time we can during our regular day. However, this is also time when we prepare for instruction for the remainder of the year. The current moving plan provides us with the early out time on Wednesday, May 29th, Thursday, May 30th, and Friday, May 31st to pack. Our early outs usually last about 50 minutes after the students leave, which is not a whole lot of time. We're grateful that our non-moving staff in our buildings have been asked to help those of us who are. However, that Friday is a workshop day, which staff usually use to complete the building and year-end checklist, grades, and other tasks needed to prepare for the summer cleaning. We cannot expect our coworkers to help us when they have their own rooms to take care of. As you may have heard, the Hibbing School District is also moving to grade level buildings. The board unanimously approved changing the last day of school to May 24th instead of May 30th. According to the Northern News Now article, the decision was made to accommodate the realignment of the buildings and give teachers time to pack and move their classrooms. They have also offered to pay ESPs and other staff to help move after school was finished. Please keep in mind that when we moved into our new schools 4 years ago, our schools were closed from March 18th through the end of the year due to COVID. We used that time to prepare for distance learning and pack our rooms. Some of us, a lot of us, had over 100 boxes to pack, and we were not asked to load any of those onto the pallets. Needless to say, we're not asking for that many days. We understand that taking that last week off might not be feasible for our district, but we feel that extra days of paid time offered after school is finished could benefit both sides. We've also talked about maybe getting, instead of paid days, maybe vacation time. We've kind of gone back and forth. We have been told that we will have our workshop days in August to unpack. However, this is when we plan and prepare for open house and the first weeks of school. Our workshop days are typically full of meetings and other items the district asks of us, so that leaves us with less time. One question we had was, is it possible to move our open house maybe to the next week or later in September, just like how we used to do it? It definitely would help ease the stress for many staff this year. We feel it is simply just not possible to pack and unpack and be ready for school to start in the amount of time we are being given. The district has offered a stipend of $150 for an extra day of packing. The hourly wage we looked at is $32.66, which covers about 4.6 hours. It's not a full day's wage. So we respectfully ask that you reconsider this idea and support your staff by providing us with the appropriate time and compensation for this move. District families are going through enough emotional upheaval. We see it in our kids every day. We hear it from the families, asking us all those questions that they might not be able to ask you. They should be able to walk into welcoming classrooms knowing the staff are ready to provide their students with the education and support that they deserve. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, Jackie Skelly has an IASC update.
Hi, I'm Jackie Skelly. I'm the Executive Director for Itasca Area Schools Collaborative. I'm here just to go through a little bit of what we've been doing in IASC over the last year. Melissa serves as our IASC board rep on our IASC board, and so Melissa's been involved in some of this work. We serve 7 school districts, and so I say some of this just because one of the big things I'm really trying to work on, along with every program in IASC, is to make sure everybody understands who IASC is, who's involved in IASC. And really, you'll see as kind of one of the goals is that people no longer have questions about what do we get by being part of IASC, what is IASC, what do they do, who do they serve, but that will just become common whether you're in the school district, whether you're a family, a student, or a community member. When I look at the strategic directions for 318, everything that you have listed are things that we work on across all of our districts and making sure we're aligning. So if something isn't fitting in one district's strategic plan, we really try to make sure that it does. So whether 7 districts have the same 6 bullets or not, we want to make sure everybody's needs are being met. And I would say one of the things we have really worked hard to do is really get to know each district individually, what their needs are, and really tailor the support and services in any of our programs to those districts. In the written report I gave you, I broke down a lot more around each program. So in IASC right now, what we kind of refer to as pillars are, we have 4 of them. It's special education, technology, career pathways, and invest early or early childhood. Each one of those is a presentation in and of itself in terms of what they're doing and the work they're doing in IASC. The big piece when I think about what IASC is doing just as an organization outside of just the 4 pillars work is really, there's 3 big pieces that are happening. One is really a focus on financial sustainability for all IASC programs. And a big piece of that, some of this, I know Kara appreciates it, but some of this has really been about analyzing expenses and revenue coming in, recoding, making it so we have a whole system that's transparent and clear. People know how we're paying for things, where it's going, why it's going there, as well as revenue we're bringing in. That was a huge undertaking, and we're still in the process of that, but we are at the tail end of that now. But that has been a huge piece of it. 317, the Deer River School District, has provided fiscal host services for many years for IASC, and it's been greatly appreciated. There's a lot of work because we have so many grants, we have so many unique systems within our program. It's daunting, and because IASC continues to grow, which is a good thing, it's put a lot of stress on the structure of their business office. So we appreciate the work they did. We appreciate the transition that since 318 has agreed to take on those fiscal services moving into July, that we are beginning that transition now, and really looking forward to moving into the future with a system that is tailored to the size that IASC really is at this point. One of the other pieces that I really try to do outside of just the work of each pillar is meeting with each director of each program. The biggest piece has been around putting systems in place in each pillar. And so making sure if we're talking about early childhood or if we're talking about career pathways, technology, or special education, that there's systems in place so if people leave or come or go, we are able to just continue with the work that's going. It's not tied necessarily to a person, although we know sometimes people carry the knowledge, but if the system's in place, we can have some fluid transitions. The other big piece that we're really working on doing, and this comes with the systems work, has been not living so siloed in IASC. And so when we're talking, I just had a meeting at IEDC about 2 weeks ago with Tamara Loney, and we were talking about career pathways work. And as we're talking about it, they're talking about housing and a community center, and career pathways work as it ties to that. Early childhood comes up. You can't talk workforce without talking about early childhood. And so we're starting to not only figure out how do we create the systems within each of our pillars, but how do our pillars connect? And really that connection is going to be where our districts see value in being part of IASC. And so that work has been very intentional, and that's been really the focus this year, is making sure there's some horizontal connections as well as vertical. And then the last piece, and this is the piece I kind of touched on right away, was we are looking to rebrand IASC and really just have a different, more updated image, a clear mission, a clear vision, clear direction on where we're going, and when you're a member of IASC, so 318 is a member of IASC, what can you say you get as being a member of IASC? When I took this job almost 2 years ago, that was questions I got regularly, like what do we get from that? And so the work now is, as we rebrand, we'll have some new social media availability, we'll have a website, we'll have some different accessibility options to be able to display or present the things that IASC is doing for each district. And I mention this now just because I can put it under successes, but 2 very, very easy things that once we have this stuff up and running and we're functioning in more of 2024 than we currently are, we started a PAYS Lab this year, and I'm not sure how many have seen that or have heard much about that. PAYS Lab is a practical assessment exploration system. It's for students with disabilities, and we don't have a formal partnership. IASC Special Education Co-op and 318's Special Education Services, but we work together on everything. And so Anna Lloyd and myself have we partnered on that program. We have many kids going through that program who are getting more prepared for life outside of high school. And that's it's one very clear, anyone who walks through that program or talks to any of those students or staff who are in that program, you know why you're part of IASC. Like, it's very clear that kind of partnership can't happen without the collaborative effort that's taking place there. The second one, and I bring this up because it's still very fresh and people are going to hear a lot more about it, we just had our first Prom with Purpose on Friday. It was amazing. It was driven by a 318 student council member, Kayla Jenkins, who approached me in January and said, I want to lead a inclusive prom for students with disabilities and our student council members across all IASC districts. And I want to make sure that this happens because I think she was identifying some students she knows outside of 318 who have disabilities, and she said, I think that I worry about how they participate in their own district's prom. And she said, I feel like you can give them an experience that will meet their needs. And I think she sent the email to me, and I think their response, she said, do you think this is something we can do? And I said, yes, yes, and yes, when can we meet? And so it was completely driven by students. Friday, Mr. Gross was there, Jeff Britton from 316 was there, Andy Forboard showed up from the high school, and it's something that can't be described. So there will be pictures. I mean, there's a lot of things we're trying to backtrack now a little bit. We didn't realize we'd kind of get quite so much awareness, but those are reasons people are part of IASC. That stuff doesn't happen if we aren't partnered with 7 districts. And so it was truly amazing and very, very cool, for lack of a more professional term. But it was very awesome. So more to come on that. I know I've already got probably 3 or 4 emails referring to either interviews or pictures or news releases. So it'll be a very public event, and it's going to be year to year, and we're looking for businesses and partners. So it's amazing. So I would love to speak more about it if anyone wants to hear more. So evidence of success or improvement. One of the things when I think about IASC is a year into this, and I'm saying a year because it took me about 5 or 6 months to realize what was happening, where we're at. There was just a lot of turnover. We had directors who had left. We had just superintendents changing. We had COVID stuff still shifting. There was just a lot of things happening. And I would say within the last year, our financial systems have become clearer, more transparent, more predictable. And sometimes the predictability is it's still not predictable, but at least I can say that now. It's not, I don't know if I don't know. Now I know, nope, it's still just not clean. Or it is cleaned up, this is accurate moving forward. One of the things in working with Kara and her team has been, it's been helpful because as we started the transition now, we've been able to identify other things that with working through 318 we'll be able to do in a more streamlined fashion as well. So that'll be really good. We're working a lot more intentionally on supporting all 7 districts in IASC. So it's not here, these 4 districts want to do this, these 3 districts are going to do this, these 2 districts are going to do this. It's really been intentional about how do we make sure all 7 districts. I'll use Career Pathways and Early Childhood as an example. Career Pathways had Floodwood and Big Fork, both part of the manufacturing internships this year. They hadn't been part of it historically. It had been just like 3 districts along the Iron Range that kind of started with the IRRR grant. So, and then Early Childhood, we started having conversations that typically was just the Itasca County districts, and now we're talking with Floodwood, Hill City, and Northland Community Schools in Reamer to figure out how we can support their early childhood as well. Working across systems and districts to support all students, that continues to be, we just want to make sure that we aren't saying everybody has to do it the way we want. If districts need a system done a certain way, we can tailor systems to be district specific, to meet district specific needs in certain situations. Again, rebranding the image, making sure people understand the benefit of being an IASC member, as well as we spent the last year cleaning up contracts and agreements that were in place with IASC. We had a lot of random things kind of going on. We've cleaned that up. This spring, we'll do some final cleaning with Casey to make sure that contracts are really in line that are expiring this June. So July 1, I feel like we'll have a good 2 years of scrub work done, and we'll be well on our way to just moving forward in the growth manner we're in right now. Barriers to success, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a barrier. I think it's just things that maybe have slowed things down. Sometimes I get a little too excited and I want to move too fast. And then sometimes that's the speed at which things have to go, is they just have to go slower. And so one of the things is it felt really early on, it felt like this was going to be an easy transition with business services. It's a, let's recode real quick, let's get this thing switched over. It's just not. And so in that transition, taking some time to make sure we do it intentionally, we do it correctly, but we also do it intentionally with the way we want it done. It just is slower. So then it slows down the growth of other things, which is fine. It's just a barrier to maybe moving forward faster or making the kind of progress some people expect that we made. The capacity within IASC, we have the people in IASC, I think everyone who works in IASC, regardless of pillar, has been stretched to the max. And they are doing it 100% bought in. They're doing it because they believe in the work, they believe in the mission, they believe in serving all the communities. And I just think that's impressive. It's just one of those things that I'm very aware of that I can't push much more. But and so when there is fatigue, we try to do some things, and I know 318 knows we try to do some things that and I say it often to bring some joy so that people see why it's important to stay working in IASC and to serve 7 districts. It's hard working across 7 systems. So it's hard work, but it's good work, and the people we have, I do feel like believe in it. And I think the other piece, and this comes back often, is just IASC doesn't enroll students in the programs where we serve them. And so when you enroll students, you get the revenue that comes with students and all the tails that come with that, whether that's transportation or scarcity or whatever. And that's, I'm talking mostly financial. And so everything we do in IASC is usually a direct bill type method, which means everybody questions the bills they get. So it's not something that right now is self-sustaining because we don't have a way to generate our own revenue. Not saying that isn't something we will look to in the future, but right now that's one of the things that I know each district, rightfully so, looks at things, looks at bills, looks at invoices they get and says, what are we paying for? Why are we doing this? So that's the nature of how IASC runs at this time. So that's one of the pieces that we're looking to kind of address as needed. Some changes, again, working on the budgeting system, making sure that that piece and sustainability around our biggest IASC programs is clear and transparent. People know what they're paying for, what they're getting. We're working on READ Act requirements for all early childhood educators. They have some different requirements, and by taking that off the plates of school districts, that's one less thing that it's different. Some people who aren't doing, the only READ Act training that's approved by the state is letters. 318, I don't believe, is doing letters moving forward. And so if that was something that we had 318 doing, we'd have to plan for 2 separate types of training. So by us taking that on, we'll educate all early childhood educators in that READ Act for all 7 districts. Plus any IASC teachers who also need that training will get that through IASC. So that will be on individual districts. And then the 2 other pieces we're looking to improve, create, or revise are teacher development evaluation tool, making sure we have that in place for statutory requirements. I'll work with Casey on that just to make sure we're aligned with the system she has. And then a continuing ed committee. Right now, IASC leverages each individual's districts for continuing ed, going through that process to get their license renewed. And with the amount of employees we have, it feels like we should be creating that on our own. And so we're looking to do that moving into next year. If it's another year out, we'll see. But right now, the goal is for next year. So it was a lot. I had to spit at you. But any questions or comments?
Jackie, I really appreciate your enthusiasm in this. I know there's a lot to do. You've done a lot, and I really appreciate the work. If I could offer a suggestion, if you will, and Melissa, our board rep, she does a wonderful job in keeping us, other 5 board members, up to date on what's happening. I can't speak for the other districts that are involved in IASC. I know in the past, when I first got on the board, we used to have at least 1 meeting a year with all the school boards coming together and kind of getting an update and where things are at, and where things might be going in the future. And my suggestion is this: if you're going to be rebranding IASC, it might be an opportunity to bring those school boards together, talk about what's been happening, kind of the direction where things are going, and talk about the rebranding so that they have an opportunity to maybe participate as well, not just their board rep, but all board members within the IASC piece itself. As much as Melissa's brought back, there's a lot more that you shared tonight that, again, is really invigorating and nice to see. And no disrespect or discredit to anybody in the past, but this is what needed to happen with IASC from my perspective. We needed to have an executive director like yourself coming on board and getting things organized and moving in the right direction. There's a lot of value here, and I've always said we can't do it alone. We got to do it together, and this is a prime example of doing it together. So whatever we need, we can do as a board to continue to move forward with the other school districts to continue to move forward as well. So thank you for the work.
David?
Yes, Jackie, I would echo congratulations. It's an exciting venture that you have there. Is there something that you would look to ISD 318 for to support your work? Understanding the financial and organizational situation that we're in.
Right now, as ironic as it sounds, it's not the financial piece that we're looking for. I feel like even when we met with the community understands they have a stake in this too. When we talk early childhood, we talk career pathways, they see they have a place in that too, especially when it comes to the financial implications, because this is about really serving our community as well. I think the biggest thing, and I know I talk with superintendents and principals often about it, is just making sure people are at the table. Mr. Gross and then the principals, when we have meetings, being at the table, being part of that, participating, that's the biggest thing that I think I've asked from every district, and making sure that they have feedback. And I wouldn't say that that's been a concern. I think Most people who have worked with me or know me know if they aren't engaging, I usually time them. And then I try to engage them individually. But it's just one of those things that there's just a lot going on. And so for us just to move forward and just, if people are like, yeah, I'm not gonna come to the table for that, and we keep moving forward, the kids lose out. And that's what we've learned, is if if our leaders aren't connecting with students or getting other people at the table who need to inform students or families, our kids and families miss out. So it's really been about just making sure staff stay engaged. And I haven't seen a huge concern with that. And like I said, if I have, I usually have addressed that. So yeah, I would just say making sure that they're showing up and asking questions. I think that's the other piece too. I don't want to ever pretend like everything's working out exactly the way it's supposed to. I want people asking questions and challenging what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you, Jackie. At this time, we're going to adjourn the work session, and we'll come back to order for the regular meeting in a minute or two. Ready, Julie?
We're ready.
Call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on the agenda is to approve the agenda. Second, moved by Pat, second by David. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. Next item on the agenda is a principal report from Darren Hofstad, Grand Rapids High School.
Thank you, Board Schroeder, members of the board, Superintendent Gross. I appreciate you allowing me to speak on behalf of Grand Rapids High School. Jen, before I was able to acknowledge her role too in that prom with a purpose, I just want to mention that again. This past Friday, very impactful event. We had over 40 students, whether it was students with disabilities or students that helped out. And I think much like what Victory did for our football program and bringing a lot of community members together, this prom with a purpose has a chance to really expand its reach and demonstrate all of the good out there. That's whether it's our student body, but Jackie Skelly, Anna Lloyd really had a lot to do with the success of that event. So we look forward to chipping in on that in the years to come. Just a couple of updates too of where this is a busy time of year for the Grand Rapids High School. We recently had our awards night this past week, and very well attended. Since COVID, I think that was our biggest crowd yet. We have prom next weekend, and the week after that, we have our scholarship night. So we have a couple of really busy weeks. You sandwich some MCA testing and some IB testing in there, and it's a busy place right now. So, but it's all that culmination towards graduation, and there's excitement in the air. So we're excited as well. What I wanted to present on tonight, and I think it would be good for the board to hear, is this is a time of year where I'm creating the master calendar. We've gone through our registration process, and our course catalog has changed, and it's had to change these past 5 years based on reductions, the challenges of dispersing some of our courses and really kind of changing what our core subject areas might be looking like, and our electives as well. And I think it's good to talk a little bit about some of the legislation that has passed that has impacted our classes. So I'm just going to briefly talk about some of our subject areas, and again, field questions at the end for those that have them. First of all, in science, we have a pretty major shift next year in terms of our credit requirements at the high school level. At the high school, starting at 24-25, there's a requirement of 1 credit of earth and space science, 1 credit of life science, and 1 credit of physics or chemistry. The big change in there is the 1 credit of earth and space science required at the high school. In the past, and currently, we have a Physical Science 9 course that we run. Now, with this integration of earth and space science, we created a course called 9th Grade Integrated Science. And it enables us to do a couple things. First of all, the licensures in science is unlike most core subject areas. Having a license in chemistry doesn't necessarily allow you to teach biology. Licenses in biology, so forth, physics. So there's a lot of challenges there, and this is something with the integrated portion of it that we hope gives us a bit of flexibility, but it also, definitely presents its challenges. Creating a new course in science and using, making sure that we're addressing all the benchmarks is something that we certainly look forward to the challenge, but it's definitely there. Because of reductions over the years too, in terms of like having an advanced track in science and our regular track, that's gone to the wayside as well. So it's enabled us to, again, be able to disperse the sections more evenly. There's hope and there's concern in all of the decisions that we make, but we feel like this gives us the best chance of being able to serve our students while still maintaining our top-end IB courses and our SITS courses. In fact, we added a SITS course, our second-year chem course, is the first one in the Northland to partner with UMD. So we're really proud of that fact. We still have a lot of the strength in our top-end courses, but there's some challenges in our earlier years. In social studies, you may have heard that there is a civics requirement for junior and senior year. That's been pushed back or delayed a year, which gives us some more planning time. But again, I think that we've had a little bit of the foresight to look ahead to see that this was coming down the pike. And for those of you that had children go through, they had in 9th grade geography and civics as a 1 semester each course. Our 9th grade course is now called Social Studies 9. Again, the broadness of it allows us to be able to make sure that we're meeting the standards, but also to prepare us for these civics requirements. And with our courses laid out, that includes economics and our U.S. and our world history, we really feel like we're positioned right now to be able to meet the benchmarks with our current courses. So an addition of a course titled civics is probably not going to be necessary. So again, we're fortunate to have a year more planning for that, just being that the legislature passed that, but we feel like we're pretty good shape regardless. There's still a lot of opportunities, again, for our top end with our SITS courses in economics, geography, and history of Europe 11 and 12. English is another big change for next year. One of the things that we did years ago was try to tailor some of our courses, our English courses, towards some genres that had some interest for students, like a survival literature class or mystery lit, things like that. With reductions, and again, some of these things are you can look at them as negatives, but it also gives us an opportunity to really provide some consistency across our courses. So in our English classes, we have, again, more generalized English titles like English 9, English 10, English 11, and English 12. But we have some advanced sections in there to allow our students to reach our 6th, 11, and 12th grade classes. What it does impact is there has been remedial courses in the past that we've been able to offer students on the lower end. And it's not that we're not offering those anymore, it's just they're more integrated. And there's processes and systems, and MTSS is something that's still being worked through at the high school, but that's helping us serve some of these students where we've had coursework and courses that have been able to do that in the past. And grouping is a big component of math as well. Math is, we're on our 2nd year now of, or this is our 1st year of not offering a remedial course called GR Math. And that was kind of a catch-all class that encompassed algebra, geometry, advanced algebra. And we still have those courses, but those remedial courses, again, there's just not room in the catalog with the FTEs that's remaining. And again, I don't present this as something that is not a challenge that we haven't met, but it is a challenge. And kudos to our departments at the high school for thinking outside the box and rearranging long-standing course layouts in order to help serve our kids the best we can in our core areas. And the reason I start there is because with our reductions in the past 5 years, our core areas, they did see the greatest reduction in FTEs. And we have seen our class sizes increase, up to 30% in some cases during that time. However, we still feel like our catalog is such that we're serving the students to the best of our ability while still providing some top-end courses for those college-bound students. And finally, in talking about electives and touching on that topic as well as again, hearing from Jackie Skelly about our relationship with career pathways. You may remember last year I presented on a platform called Zello that we used, this career connected learning platform that helped get some interest inventories as well as some college exploration, some career exploration. And that we're on our 3rd year of Zello, and we have all of our 9th, 10th, and 11th graders on that platform and utilizing that to not only explore, but also to track some of their coursework that they're currently taking at the Grand Rapids High School. So in the indicator report, most recently, you saw some of the numbers that came out, and those were reflective of being able to track that with Zello, but also just the dedication that our elective courses have in continuing to not only offer, our end of the unit pathways, kind of our capstone, but also some of those introductory pathway classes like small engines and intro to ag, and to get kids that experience so they can pursue those, because who really knows what they want to do in their 9th grade or 12th grade for that matter. But some other things that we were able to add with our electives or incorporate with, and I shouldn't say add in, be careful with that, but is our relationship with UMD and being able to offer a college in the schools music course and a college in the schools weightlifting course. And again, doing this because we have teachers that are interested in pursuing that certification. It's not something that I can make anybody do, but it's just looking out for the best interest of our students. It's professionally, it's obviously a very valuable professional development for the staff member, but it's also for our kids as well. They bring that back to the rest of our courses. We have a very unique partnership with Minnesota North moving into next year with offering our CNA course. It's not a lot of students, but this is something that's covered through a grant process with, and it's not with IS, but Minnesota North, where the CNA course is going to be offered on site at the Grand Rapids High School. So it's pretty neat to be able to have an opportunity like that. That's not remote or telepresence, but it's in person. And then finally, just again, to talk about a bit about our internships and our career pathways. Obviously, that career internship and the flexibility that allows us to serve students in manufacturing, and we're pursuing some opportunities in business as well as our healthcare. So again, I just wanted to provide some information tonight. I think it's important for the board to have a little bit of an insight or behind the curtain look at what our course catalog, how that's kind of morphed over the past few years. There's a challenge right now. Like I said, I'm not done with the master schedule by any means yet, but all of this stuff plays a part in being able to work with the wonderful staff and the leaders that I have in the building. Enables us to creatively game plan around scheduling and our course offerings. So yeah, I guess the board or anybody has any questions.
Question? Melissa?
Darren, you talked about science.
Yeah.
And that we don't have advanced science, but they can, is it true that they can access, because then I heard you say since college in the schools and the International Baccalaureate, they can, so if a kid wanted advanced stuff, they could access that, is that correct?
I should be more clear on advanced. When I say that, I meant like a split at ninth grade where we had like physical science 9 and advanced physical science 9, or integrated science 9 advanced. Advancing the students at that 9th and 10th grade levels where those courses are the same, we no longer have that split. However, on the end where you're a junior or senior, there's still those advanced courses that are available. So that's a great, I'm glad you followed.
No, I forgot about those guys.
Yeah.
And I just want to say thank you for the awards night. That was really fun to be at. And it was really cool to see all of the awards that went for career pathways.
Yeah.
There was like automotive, manufacturing, healthcare had a ton.
Yeah.
Was there like a forestry? Did I get that right?
Business,
Was
there's
there business,
ag,
forestry, ag, yeah, and construction, I think. There was an education. I mean, there was a ton. So for folks who think like they're focusing on careers. So I just wanted to say thank you for that.
And it is, I agree with you, Melissa, and it's a night where, you know, it honors predominantly our seniors and some of our juniors, but the more underclassmen, and we do have a couple of those that win the department awards.
Yeah.
That was the biggest comment that I got from families was, wow, we didn't know, and we're so excited for our son or daughter to be able to experience that. So
yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
So kudos to you and all the teachers, and
Thank you.
that's a lot. I mean, that's that's a lot.
David?
Darren, thank you. You're doing tremendous work under very challenging circumstances, and I appreciate it. And Melissa addressed particularly the advanced students. Part of my concern is our students who are not getting it the first time through, and we've had a lot of support for those folks in the past. Other principals, as they've reported, have indicated that we've brought up reading scores and math scores in particular in elementary and middle school. Do we have concerns about those? You referenced MTSS. And
yes, absolutely, and that's a big concern of mine moving forward as well. I mean, yes, you know, if I look back at last year to this year in terms of our MCA scores, I could pat, you know, ourselves on the back for improvement, but at the same time, I have big concerns about our lowest and our, you know, especially our youngest learners, and those are things that, you know, we are working very hard. And when I say MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support, I mean,
yes.
That's one component But there's a lot of work that goes into that includes teams such as our DART, our data action response teams, our care teams. There's a lot more data-driven teams that are looking at and trying to identify those students in need earlier. And we also have a good partnership with the middle school as well in terms of that handoff to try to make sure that students are getting that support that they need, and that whether that's a 504 special ed or an IEP identification. There's also some work that goes into having some interventions in place that our counselors are doing, or our social work, or our teachers and principals. So it's really attacking this with a team approach, but it is something that that concern never goes away.
Thank you.
Thank you, Darren. Appreciate your leadership.
Any other comments or questions? Thanks, Darren.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the April 8th, 24 regular school board meeting. I'm looking for a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Melissa,
Support.
second by Ben. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes for April 8th are approved. Next item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the April 15th special meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Ben,
Second.
second by Pat. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes of the special meeting are approved. Next item on the agenda, Casey, consent agenda.
Good evening, board. Tonight we have Carol Kopp, 0.6 FTE teacher replacement transfer hire. Eric Fox, Nordic ski coach replacement hire. Adam Gebner, teacher resignation. Rachel Gebner, teacher resignation. Bruce Goodwin, principal resignation. Jamie Goodwin, licensed school nurse resignation. Ann Hutner, special education teacher replacement hire. Thomas Ingram, bus driver resignation. Jesse Lathrop, teacher replacement hire. Michelle Nelson, girls assistant swim and dive coach replacement hire. And Susan Roy, secretary retirement. Sue has served in the district for 22 years. I'm recommending approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Pat, second by Mindy. Reminder, there's no discussion on the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Next item on the agenda is to approve the amended 2023-2024 ISD 318 school calendar. Superintendent Gross.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Per the discussion at last week's work session, I've gathered some more information relative to amending the calendar. One of the things that I brought up last week was the challenge potentially around instructional hours if we expanded the reach of that, and just sharing that not having school for the middle and high school students would drop our those school levels, secondary below the minimum number of instructional hours required by law. Elementary has a different number there, so we would need to make up time at the secondary level in order to make instructional hours work. Checked on bus drivers and was able to verify that we would continue to need to pay for them even if they didn't drive kids to and from school that day based on the current bargaining agreement. Our cooks do cleaning usually after the school year, and that could happen at the elementaries on that Thursday, but any savings that would happen or expense that would happen there is specific to food service, so it wouldn't affect our general fund at all. I shared the paraprofessional challenge there with reimbursement, and the cost difference between being reimbursed or not is about $100 on average for a pair, about 94 actually. And so that would be revenue that we would lose if we were going to expand the number of days. And then there's, with the teachers, the end of the school year has different dynamics from a kindergarten classroom to an advanced math classroom. And to manage those different dynamics in a way that's sort of responsive to the needs is challenging. So I think with that additional information, my position still and recommendation still is that it's the best to move forward with having Cohasset East and West dismissed early. There'll still be a cost savings there by doing that, having teachers pack during the contract day, and that'll ensure we can meet our timelines. Like I said previously, I know that'll require some problem solving, but there's still 5 to 6 weeks of lead time there to figure out that day. And I think the actual number of families that would be impacted or be put into a difficult position with sibling care is small enough, and people will be able to adjust to that. Some questions have come up, like those Mrs. Schlater raised tonight about the amount of time and the pay for the time, and those are still details that we can work through. Those are ancillary or adjacent to the discussion around calendar. We still have time to figure those out, but in terms of adjusting the calendar, I think it's important that we do that in a timely enough way to let our community know, and so they can begin those plans. And I had conversation as recently as today with union leadership about some other ideas there, and so we can continue to work through that if there's some changes we need to make there to land on a plan that everybody can live with. And we've established at this point in terms of packing that early out time, Mrs. Schlater mentioned that, Wednesday the 29th, all day 30th on that Thursday. Anytime not needed for grading and normal checkout on Friday, there'll be some people able to assist. And for August, what we've established so far, again, those discussions can continue to work through this, but there'd be a day of pay between August and the start of school. I talked to the administration today about setting aside the entire day on Tuesday. Generally, there's district meetings and building meetings on that Tuesday, and we will completely stay away from that day. So that'll be entirely Teachers' Day to use for unpacking, and then again we can continue some discussions about trying to make that the best we can. But that's the recommendation at this point still, is that we move forward with starting summer vacation a day earlier for the elementary and town schools.
Looking for a motion to approve the amended calendar.
So moved, David.
Moved by David. Support. Second by Ben. Discussion.
Mr. Chair, Matt, I appreciate the comment of wanting the community. I think they're wanting to know what's going to be happening, so the earlier we get that out, I think that's a benefit to us here as well as the community in itself. And I know we even had a little hesitation from our workshop to this week, so I appreciate that. In regards to the comments tonight from educational staff, as well as some of the emails that we all received, I appreciate your comments about trying to find some middle ground here. If possible, you can maybe take these comments, concerns back to your transition team and have some further discussion and see if we can come up with a plan that will work for all involved with it. I get it. It's a stressful time. I know they went through it when we moved to the new elementaries, and it probably feels a little more under the gun now than it was back then, because we had COVID time in here as well. So I think I appreciate that. So if we could do that and hopefully come up with something long before the end of May, so they're not left hanging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The amended calendar is approved. Next item on the agenda is to approve the technology services agreement with IASC. Superintendent Gross.
The timing of this is, I think, good with Jackie Skelly being here tonight. We've had a long-standing relationship in IASC among school districts and IASC with technology, going back, 20 years probably, or since the beginning of IASC in some ways. We've had leadership happen in different ways with IASC technology, and technology's changed a great deal. It used to be a lot more physical structures and things that you could touch that IASC owned. Now with more and more things going to the cloud, that's changed. And so now a lot of the work around managing IASC's infrastructure is managing that cloud, managing services, and also I'd say, and it'd be interesting to hear Chris's take on it at some point, but in the place of managing that physical hardware has come ensuring that we're as prepared as we can be from cyber attacks, because it's when you talk to a tech involved in an organization our size, ours being IASC size, I think their number one concern is that, because it's happening every single day. We're getting attacks from all over the globe. And those tactics have changed, how they're going about doing it, and the approaches they've changed, where it used to be much more focused on cracking the technology, and really now it's about cracking the people. And so we're fortunate that we've had some good investments in the past, but the point in all this is that this has changed. We're providing leadership from 318 to IASC, selling some services that kind of enables our director, Chris, to kind of keep an eye on all of it. And this agreement represents the purchase of services agreement between IASC and 318 for this current fiscal year and next fiscal year.
Looking for a motion to approve the agreement.
So
Moved by Pat,
Second.
second by David. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The technology service agreement is approved. Board reports are 2 student representatives could not attend tonight. I think we got a pretty good update from Principal Hofstad though, so who'd like to start on the board reports? Pat?
sure, I can. Mr. Chair, members of the board, we had a Fringe Benefit Committee meeting last week, and I would say we're good news there. Things are moving in the right direction, but it's still early in regards to switching from the plan we were on to where we're at. Probably need another 6 to 8 months under our belt to get a bigger picture of it, but things look very promising there. So with that, also attended the MSBA webinar on mental health, and it was nice to see that Tony Pierce was recognized. Remember Tony, principal in Cohasset. Some of the things that he had in Cohasset he brought forth to where he's at, and some of the schools down there implemented. I know David probably talked a little more in depth on it, where we might want to head here as a district in that as well. Just want to say, wish Bruce and Jamie well on their new endeavors as they leave us, and Adam and Rachel as well. And thank you to Sue Roney for 22 years of service to the district. And there's a little near and dear piece to Susan. She was part of my grandkids going through Cohasset, so she kind of grew up there with them as well. So, and just a comment in regards to the cell phones in the school. I'm sure you all been following legislation that potentially might happen from the legislature on governing cell phones in schools. I'm not saying that we as a district can't take some initiatives before that passes, if it passes, if you will, but that's moving through the legislature right now. Not sure where it'll land, but it's being talked about. So I don't think it's just an issue here in 318. I think it's an issue across all school districts in the state of Minnesota. So if it hit the legislature, it's got to be a problem. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mindy?
I've attended a couple of RIFE meetings, and they did hire an executive director at the RIFE. His name is Jim Mack, and he comes from Illinois and has a lot of experience and all sorts of good stuff. And so he starts May 6th at the RIFE. I also attended a wellness committee meeting, and they're doing great work. They've been getting grants, and they're doing wellness challenges that everyone seems to like. So they're going good guns there. That's it.
Thank you. David?
I had attended a number of MSBA legislative updates. There's so much happening right now legislatively. And MSBA and MREA both are doing rather regular updates in that regard, which is helpful. The endowment committee met. We have a plan for a teacher recognition coming up for the end of the year. Also are addressing plans for how we can create deadline dates that are more supportive of educators. Working within a fiscal year, Some people have concerns that if the application date is in November, funds aren't available until literally after the new year. So what about any projects that can start earlier? So we're looking into possibilities there, and we'll consider that. Pat referenced the webinar on educator mental health, which was a really very interesting webinar. The piece that I looked at, we do not have a policy for educator mental health. We have a piece for student wellness, policy 533. But I'm looking into a potential policy that would affect educator mental health. There's a really good policy at Hopkins School. I'm looking to get permission from them to use that as a possible template for our consideration to go to the policy committee. It's an area we know that our teachers are under incredible stress, teachers and administrators, all of our professional staff, dealing with it very well. But I think we can step up a bit, and I'll be asking us to look into that.
Thank you, David. Ben?
I'm not.
Melissa?
I ask, and I don't have anything to add from Jackie already said. So.
You got a pretty comprehensive
Yeah.
report there. Next item on the agenda is superintendent's report. Superintendent Gross.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just kind of building off of what Mr. Maduri said about the cell phone, and I'll give Jim a call and let him know the timing of this is good. Our Meet-Confer group that we have with our teachers actually talked about cell phones at our last meeting. And we've kind of, I think, identified it as an area that we think we can work on together. Carol has rounded up over a dozen people, I think, to serve on a work group there. There's a lot of interest in doing something, and the policy work at the legislative level looks to me like it's not going to be anything that's going to give us. It's going to be like, hey, you need a policy, and so I'm with Pat. We need to just do this and try to put something that's going to work in 318, and something that not only that'll make our students' lives better, but that we can support in the classroom and in the in the offices as well. And that's one of the challenges about things like T-shirts and hats and all those kinds of things. Our principals will shake their heads. Enforcement's the challenge. Any policy is only as good as how consistent you can be, and how we enable that policy and the language we use to make it be consistent, so that it doesn't create tension with teachers and kids. And so that's why I'm glad we've got some folks that are interested in getting involved with it. So that's good timing on that. I was able to attend Prom with a Purpose. A lot's been said about that, and more could be said, should be said, and will be said, I think, about that. And I got to attend the academic awards as well. And the thing that I left thinking about was, there are a lot of folks that are quick to say things like kids these days and refer to that into a negative sort of light. And I looked at the Prom with the Purpose. I looked at what happened at our awards night, and we'll see this in the next few awards nights too. Kids these days are doing incredible things. Like Jackie said, this prom was put together and led by our kids. The adults stood back and the kids just did it all. At that awards night, you saw kids that were comfortable with a hammer, and kids that were comfortable with a beaker, and kids that were comfortable in the woods, and kids that were comfortable on a ball field. And those kids are all excelling and doing amazing things, and they're going to go off and represent ISD 318 in the world and do great things. And I think kids these days is a hashtag for something amazing. And it's happening despite the things that Jim was talking about. It's happening despite COVID. It's happening despite more distractions that have ever been levied on kids. They continue to do great things, and a lot of that comes back to what we do for kids here. So I'm you know, I'm blue sky and opportunities and positive about the future because of who we have here, both serving children and the kids we have here. So I get excited about that kind of thing. We had another Big Fork School Advisory Committee meeting. We got a chair elected there. And so Angie Storley's going to be leading that group. Great community leader. She's involved with the League of Minnesota Cities, Greater Minnesota City, so plugged into small communities, and so that's a lot of strength and leadership in that community. So that's exciting as well. I think in planning with our next board meeting, I think we'll bring our REDAC plan together for you to see what our plan is for PD, what our plan is. We've got an MOU that we have been working on with our union to kind of lay out what remuneration looks like there. And so there's PD funds coming from the state, and also the curriculum, like Jackie said, there's 3 different trainings that have been approved, and then some curriculum, and our English language arts team is going to be meeting soon to start working on the selection of curriculum. And so I'll have Ryan and probably Jen Shadeen come and walk us through that, and so you know where we're at with that REDAC too. And there's still some things being fine-tuned in St. Paul there. So lots happening. You know, you see some staffing things here that we're going to have to respond to, and so we'll continue to work this spring to make sure we've got great people around our great kids. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Matt, in regards to the group that you have together on the cell phone, just a thought here as you were talking, it might not hurt to have some senior high parents and maybe some middle school parents and some elementary parents as part of that committee. I think they'll all have a different perspective on why their kids should have a cell phone. And I think it's important that we solicit that input. Because in the end, whatever gets pushed out, we're probably going to have to push back on it. So I think it's important. We can say we had parents at the table and taking their input.
Good point. Reminder, upcoming school board committee meeting dates are posted on each agenda. School board meeting agendas can also be found on the district website and at the designated posting site in the ISD 3 Teen Educational Services Center. Is there any other business to come before the board? Julie, has anyone else signed up for public input?
No.
Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you, Mike.